incredibly more juicy. That's the big one. Our next match is going to be Rapha versus Garpy, which is a matchup that I feel like it's kind of hard to read, because in 2v2, you know, you're always going to favor the Liquid boys because of how well they approach the mode. But in Duel, I've always felt like if there's any game mode out there that Garpy can really come into his element, Duel seems to be that game mode for him.
I certainly hope so for him. I think, of course, Rapha is a clear favorite, just in general, both like team games, Duel as well. But this is best of one, which means that if anything's going to get shaken up, it's going to get shaken up here.
It changes everything. It's just one map. Again, you can't mess up. Rapha, I think you're correct, is probably the I would call it a slight favorite to give Garpy his due. Garpy is one heck of a duelist. He's going to push Rapha to the limit, I think, in this map. It's really tough for me to objectively make a pick here. I would say, because I like Shane, I know Rapha very much, and I think he's one of my favorite players, but also Garpy is too, so I'm very conflicted about who to pick here. So my heart really is telling me both guys, and so my head,
That's not how the game works.
It's not helping. It's not helping.
Let me make the bold pick, right? I've said this before, and I'm going to stick true to my guns. I think Garpy's winning the whole tournament.
Wow.
I think Garpy has historically brought it on LAN, especially in Duel. I think that obviously he's going to go in having something a little bit more to prove. Obviously they did really, really well in 2v2 yesterday. But in Duel, this is Garpy's game mode. And I'm going to make the bold claim. I think it's not just going to be Rapha. I think Garpy's going to get that.
Maybe this will be some good information so we can maybe make a more educated guess. It's going to be Molten Falls without Clutch and without Ranger.
Interesting.
An interesting choice. You know, you'd always kind of consider Ranger as one of those almost like counters to Clutch, because the ability to go through the shield is something that, you know, he's one of the only characters in the entire game that can actually do that, which is a huge factor in a best of one. That's the thing. That's what we have to always talk about here, is you're going to be looking at champion matchups more significantly than I think we ever would in any other game mode, because in a best of one where you lose this champion and that could be you out the tournament, matchups and tools versus tools is going to be more prominent now than it ever has been.
That makes it very risky to pick somebody like Scalebear.
And I think banning Ranger is kind of interesting too, because it's one map. Imagine it coming down to the last frag, the last round, and then your opponent has Ranger, and you're like,
comeback mechanics, man.
I don't know if I want to go around any corner right now because that Dire Orb, it's dangerous. But now that my feet are to the fire, I'm going to say Rapha wins, but it's going to be really close, and I would not be surprised if Ketchup is completely correct here with the Garpy win. To me, it's that close.
Well, we're not seeing any Nixes this time around, so it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to see a lot of Visor, a lot of Galena, a lot of Blastquotes.
Yeah, a lot more, I think, modern meta picks, obviously going in with the BJ so consistently because he's super, super prominent these days. Removing Clutch from the play kind of opens up quite a few champions that sometimes you otherwise wouldn't have seen as frequently. You know, the shield is such a direct answer to so many of the more popular champions these days. You know, BJ kind of being one of the big ones. And the second Clutch was kind of shifted out of the meta. That's kind of where we kind of saw the, you know, the re-emerge of BJ. Because now that sort of big problem isn't going to be an issue. But here we go. Going into this map, it's going to be hard to call this one, but Garpy and Duel, they do go hand in hand, don't they?
Unfortunately for us, it does fall down to us to call it one way or the other as it happens. Garpy going to be taking a little bit of damage at the railgun, taking away the 25s as he can, but it's going to be Rapha stealing away the other, and that's just barely with 4 HP, enough to take away that first frag. But can he get the quick recovery, as now Garpy's going to be on his own Blastquotes, and we know how dangerous he can be with that dual machine gun right off the bat. Rapha looking at the 225s down by Mega, does not want to commit to them.
Now, no need to go in for the rail and kind of give up that unnecessary noise, not giving Garpy any information, especially, you know, Rapha's going to be one of those players that knows that dual wield's available. He's going to kind of sit tight, bide his time, and now he has the dual wield himself. So if Garpy pops it right now, trying to go in for the kill, Rapha kind of has that ace in the hole, that defensive mechanism. I don't think he's going to try and fight just yet, because he's going to want to get some armor first.
Yeah, I mean, Rapha's just looking for these pot shot rails from a distance. He knows that Garpy's going to be a little bit better stacked off. I mean, Rapha, he did the right thing. After taking a frag, he was like, cool, I'm 1 frag up, but I'm also at 40 HP. I've got to play incredibly passive just for a little while. But on Molten Falls here, it's looking like a little while is turning into a long while, as now Garpy off the spawn has taken away just about everything now with his heavy armor.
Yeah, that's the thing about this map, the sort of the newer map in the game, and not everyone's going to be as familiar. It's not going to be an issue for the, the pro players because they've been grinding every map as and when it's been released. But you've got a lot of open space in this map to kind of get away from a fight that's not going in your favor. With there being 2 BJs, the same movement speed, the same kind of like mobility. That does mean that whoever's going to be making those better reads, a little bit more aware on the map, you're going to have the space to kind of recuperate. Now look, Rapha full stack and ready to go with his ability too.
It's a lot of space. You're absolutely right, but also there's so many potential traps. So Rapha really having to stay map aware of how Garpy's going to be moving through. He hasn't really found an opportunity for damage just yet. Garpy's going to be moving back down towards Mega. It's an opportunity for Rapha to at least show up, at least as a token appearance, and make a little bit of damage happen, but he's got to be really careful with his angle, and I think that one walk down the stairs is going to be enough for him. 10 seconds to armor, that Mega's going to be gone, but maybe Rapha is going to be looking for a trap.
Yeah, I think that's 100%. Rapha's in a very bad spot, though.
No.
Gets ambushed in by Garpy, pops in his dual wield, tries to go for the defensive rockets, and actually, Rapha's surviving and going in for the heavy, but the defensive rocket again. What a wonderful shot from Garpy, making the call on Rapha going for the heavy, and that was a good read right there.
I mean, you're right. I mean, he had taken a lot of damage. He was still alive, amazingly enough. Maybe he wasn't taking a look at his own health and not gauging that play over to the armor. Garpy, a great read, and he's still maintaining control. In fact, during that last fight, he didn't take all that much damage, so he's able to kind of continue the momentum that he's built up.
And Garpy was in a fantastic position to take that fight as well. With Rapha having to be very careful, trying to get his stack back up, kind of allowed Garpy to get free reign on the map and establish control on both of those items, and that's kind of why he can fight. Garpy has to be very careful going in for that heavy. I'm surprised he actually didn't get clipped by one of those rockets there. It seemed very risky to go for that, but he's okay.
He really had measured movement. He knew that he was going to be taking a little splash damage, but he was moving in such a way to minimize that as much as possible, throwing a little bit of a lip rocket over towards Rapha up top. Rapha's going to be completely armorless at the moment, but at least he's got a position on the railgun. Looking to back off, but here comes the dual LG, and Rapha is 1 frag away from losing out this first round.
That was really clean from Garpy. The second he saw that whiffed rail, he kind of knows he has the time to go in there, pop his dual wield, punish him on the cooldowns, and even in that situation, Rapha, if he went in for a rail on hit or miss, he was still going to be guaranteed dead. Going point blank, forcing Rapha to maybe take some self-damage. Watch out for that totem, Garpy. Don't want to take the unnecessary stuff, and this should be a cleanup.
Nice.
And it's going to be a good round number 1 for Garpy. Looking good, I have to say.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Syncera is a little bit of a troll when it comes to map design. That railgun room has, 3 entrances. It's got a railgun, it's got armor, it's got 50 health. There's a lot of reason once you go into, kind of bounce around and collect everything you can, but it's the last place you want to get caught. You want to be in and out of there as quickly as possible, get what you need, and get the hell out.
Now Garpy, very favorable spawn, I think, having Visor right here, kind of getting access to railgun and heavy armor combined with his natural stack. You pop piercing sight. You pretty much have the tools that you need to start a fight early on. Obviously, he has an LG as well. And I definitely favor Garpy in this situation. He has a really impressive stack. If he wants to be aggressive, he can be, or if he's trying to pick his ambush points like he has been doing. Oh no, walks right into a dual wield, watch out for that one! And he gives him for the super nail gun. Impressive that he survived that fight, catching Rapha slightly off guard.
What an intense calculation he had to make there. He had to go, all right, did I do enough damage before he popped his dual wield for me to justify just going face-to-face, head-to-head with my own nail gun? Is it worth it? Turned out to be the case, and he's also got a great rail off of Rapha right off the spawn. It's going to be about even timing split here between the 2 items, so it's going to be either, one player getting one and the other getting the other, or it could be a major fight over just one of them. And Garpy, he's got to be feeling good enough about his aim and his trap so far today to put some pressure on this heavy. Rapha is stuck back here.
It's a very bad position to be in, especially as Glenn, a wonderful rocket. It's going to do impressive damage. Rocket jumps back up to finish the kill. The totem doesn't do enough because the rocket pushed her too far away.
What is happening?
That was sick.
It's all your fault, Ketchup.
Yeah. Hey man, I told you.
You did indeed, and you might be having the good reads here today. Garpy is going to be joining you on that. Coming back up top map, looking for the play here on heavy armor. Rapha just passing on through, going, don't mind me. I just wanted an LG and I want to leave. Looks like he's going to get it. Garpy going for a conservative play here on the armor, but Rapha actually makes a lap and he comes back in looking for a few rail shots. They're going to have the opportunity to trade, but amazingly enough, it's only going to be Garpy doing the damage. Finally, rail coming out of Rapha.
It's unfortunate that he only just landed, 1 out of those 4 rails that Rapha fired, because look at Garpy's stack. If all 3 of those rails connected, that would have been a desperation Mega rather than a, hey, let's get this Mega and now be the most dangerous champion on the map situation.
And be that as it may, I mean, at some point the timer could be a factor, but again, the way that Garpy's playing, he wants blood, he knows that he's got the edge in some of these fights, and Rapha is going to drop for this armor, eat up the damage rocket, and more importantly, the bounce back is going to keep him locked in this position, and he just barely manages to escape, dropping Garpy down to 10 health himself.
Garpy not wanting to stick too much of his toes out there, doesn't want to eat a rail, but unfortunately it wasn't his choice to make. That was a really clutch rail for Rapha to land too. You know, it really has kept him in the fight. Garpy definitely would have chased otherwise.
It's going to be nasty stuff, but now Garpy is forced to restack for just about the first time in this round. Rapha now on the chase, looking for a rail of his own, not quite getting the hit. Heavy's going to be back up. Garpy's going to have good information on where Rapha's headed.
I'm a huge fan of Garpy's rockets, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
His defensive rocket placement is always sublime. Like, if the second someone tries to chase, they tend to eat between 70 and 100 damage every time, and that's not good numbers if you're trying to go in for something important. You know, it forces you to run away. There's the rail. Garpy has to try and get out of there now. Watch out. Tries to pin a trap. There's another defensive rocket. Make that 2. Just needs 1 more to get this kill. Does he go in for 1 more? Rapha! He gets the kill, but at what cost? He's so weak right now.
He could take away 50, he could take away the Mega. If Garpy shows up quickly, he's going to be trouble. Rapha knows it, he wants to get the hell out of dodge, come back in top map, and again, he's looking at the armor this time before he leaps down, but now he's finally got a frag on the board and a decent stack.
That was an amazing time to get a kill, and now here come the rails. He shouldn't really miss this final one with the piercing sight activated. Garpy's trying to run away, goes in for the jump, and that's going to be a guaranteed shot. Can't change your jump arc there, mate.
What a comeback just in this round by itself. Rapha doing all the work with his visor, doing a lot of LG damage, having to back off now that Garpy's made that rail. As Mega's coming back up, I mean, it would be a really risky thing for Garpy to even show up. He's going to be top of it, trying to rain down some rockets. The damage is good, knocking a lot of the bonus health off of Rapha, but Rapha's looking for this fight. Yeah,
that's the calculation. Good knowledge there from Rapha, knowing that even if I rocket jump up there, there actually is armor right there, so it's not going to be super punishing. Going in for this next fight, misses the rail. Very important there, because now Garpy's in great form.
It was a lot of really dense timing and number crunching out of Rapha to know that, hey, I can get the armor, but depending on where I saw him, it might not be safe to drop. So they're going to be a little bit of a standstill with Garpy in a technically worse position, but he walks right into a totem. That is going to be Rapha eating 75 damage, and Garpy's going to have a lot of useful information.
I almost feel like that was an uncharacteristic display of like carelessness from Rapha. He's normally like so careful about wherever he goes on a map. I don't know, in a split second, Galena has so many weird places she can put a totem. I feel
the
like
totems really, they punish you for being focused on your enemy's position. I mean, you let it slip, and now you've got 2 things to track instead of just 1. But my God, it's going to be Garpy just plugging in and pushing down. Rapha goes down in a second round. Garpy's on match point.
The second Garpy knew where Rapha was, it meant that, hey, I can take the Mega, I can start to stack back up, I know he's miles away, and knowing the pickups on the map on that half, you know, Heavy and Mega, they're pretty close together in terms of like left-hand side, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Garpy with that knowledge, knowing that when I take this fight, there's no way he's going to be as stacked as I am.
It's going to be Garpy taking away this heavy armor. I mean, Rapha's showed up here with his nail gun, but now Garpy's doing enough defensive damage to knock Rapha off of it. But Rapha could have maybe used that time to get himself a railgun. That's going to fall into Garpy's hands first off.
Now, with this being best of 1, and they're both going in with Visor, whoever has Visor for the longest is going to have a huge advantage in what could be the final round. If Garpy gets this first frag, I'd almost feel like the snowball effect might lead this to a 3-0 round win.
Whew, that's incredible. I mean, I know Machiavelli just got up to stretch his legs, but we might need him back here in short order. Garpy doing a ton of nailgun damage, but can't quite get the tracking against Rapha's rockets. And Rapha actually, after that fight, is looking really well stacked up. 130-130, looking for a quick return on the spawn. And you can see that he's baiting out this railgun. Garpy, he knows what's up. He's taking away rocket launcher going, yeah, I'm not going to go for the easy bait.
100%, and I think that fight that took place, it was a great kind of weapon matchup in a sense, you know, super nail gun versus rocket launcher. If you're kind of knocking people up with the nail gun, it can be kind of weird to adjust where you're aiming that thing, right? Because obviously it's going to be projectile based, very similar to the rocket. And if Rapha's kind of knocking him here, there, and everywhere, it's hard for Garpy to get a gauge on where he's supposed to shoot. Forced away from the Mega.
That was good information for Rapha as well. I mean, just getting the damage is great. He's trying to go in for a bit of a chase, bit of a push on the heavy armor. Unfortunately, in this map, that usually means chasing your opponent right into the item that you want to deny. But Rapha could still circle around the top, come back into mid, and be ready for the next one.
Okay, we're going to see what Rapha's going to be doing here, because again, the second you're going to get that champion lead, especially when there's so much on the table, I'm going to always bring back to this best of 1 style, because I feel like it's going to change how some of these people approach these maps. You just have to introduce an entire level of care and calculation where 1 mistake really is going to be the tournament for you.
And I know we've been saying a little bit during the showdown bracket that A lot of these plays have been super risky from a lot of these players, but Rapha is doing some really well-calculated stuff. You thought, hey, maybe I could make something happen at Mega, but not today. I'm going to go stack back up instead. Some pretty good damage traded off on that fight, but that's exactly it. It's only traded.
And Rapha's not putting himself in a bad situation. That was so
How do you
clean.
hit that rail? Fantastic stuff, and that's going to be a BJ on the jump pad. Garpy going down. Rapha might... I can't believe I have to say this. Rapha might take a round.
Yeah. Well, if he plays his cards right, you know, one can dream. Oh, that was so
there
good.
it is.
Well, wonderful
Wow.
display there from Rapha, and a perfect way to get back into the fight. You know, this guy, when you're on the back foot, getting a 3 straight in the next round is a perfect way to get back into it.
That's going to be Garpy making every use of those 240 hertz monitors. Have you played on a 240 hertz monitor yet?
I have actually during the practice games when we were testing the LAN client. It is smooth.
I
like
never
butter.
thought that going from 140 to 240 would be a significant enough bump, but it's made a believer out of me. Quake 2 feels great.
TM.
All right, so Rapha taking away a rail, and a little bit light on his rocket ammo, which could be a problem here in the corner. Could be backing off a little bit, just as Mega and Armor are coming up at the same time. But Rapha, I'm sure he wants to fight as he's keeping his back to the Armor, knowing, hey, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be safe. Anybody want to show up to try to challenge it? Not going to happen, but it's going to be a great opening rail for Rapha.
But it actually kind of goes back to what I think I talked about before, where I feel like whoever had Visor for the longest would have been in a wonderful position. Rapha is kind of like that extended arm, right? We always talk about Visor, where if you're a wonderful Quake player in general, the piercing sight is just an extension of what you could already do. Rapha just embodies that super, super well. Forced to retreat a little bit. Quite even there on stack. Mega spawns, but that's swiftly taken up by Garpy as well. Like Garpy has to watch out. You know, he laid some amazing traps before, but kind of fell victim a few times in the previous round. Kind of almost like what he did to Rapha was done to him immediately after.
Yeah, that's a common Rapha trap. Rapha lets you have a couple rounds, and he's just absorbing information, processing, digesting. He goes, all right, time to execute on the plan. Rapha diving in here, just pushing in the LG, and Garpy literally has nowhere to go. Down goes that Visor, and like you mentioned earlier, Ketchup, losing a Visor in a matchup like this with so much space to play with is dire docks.
I mean, you have so many angles, especially when you have the piercing sight, right? Where what would normally be like either a split-second reaction or just wonderful, you know, estimated guessing in essence. The second Visor has that opening, you can't really move around against him. You know, every corner you take becomes a massive risk.
Absolutely. So Rapha looking to, just barely missing his opportunity to rail Garpy in the back. Mega's gonna be up and taken. This map is large enough that sometimes you just have to know that, hey, my opponent's about to get a heavy, he's about to get a Mega. There's not really a lot I can do about it. I need to factor that into my next play, especially when he comes around the corner with his rockets flying.
Yeah, that prediction rocket and the fact there was only one of them fired, I think Garpy's going to be able to kind of do the math there and realize that one rocket fired by itself, it had to be a piercing sight rocket. So I wonder if he's going to be a little bit more brave in these 10 seconds or whether he's going to continue to play it slow. There's so many hourglasses, it's crazy how it's back already. Wonderful reaction there, being able to hear Garpy coming from a mile away.
Yeah, and initial rocket just bouncing him out of the harm's reach. We've got heavy armor coming back up, and here comes the nail gun spam. I mean, Garpy just flying into this fight, but is he really prepared for this? Rapha can take the armor at will, even though he's going to be risking a bit of splash damage, but his own rockets are going to be dangerous as Garpy is on top of the jump pad. Rapha just taking the armor, heading back over towards mid. Garpy, he might want to show back up for a rail, but he doesn't quite get the hit.
Yeah, and Garpy's not going to want to sort of push into that fight. He knows he's missed a couple of shots. He's going to be able to understand just how stacked Rapha is. Rapha's still in a superior position to win this fight, and even more so now he's got the Mega. It's going to be slightly undone now he's landed that rail, but here comes the piercing sight. Rapha being extremely aggressive. Misses a little bit of a strafe, but it doesn't matter. That was a wonderful turnaround.
Yeah, and Garpy just having to react to that LG instead of anticipating it. That is nasty stuff, and now Rapha is going to have a lot of momentum carried into this next fight, and I love this rocket jump. I mean, I think Garpy wanted to stay up top there a little bit just to buy himself some time, but he's already eaten one rail. He could take away 25 and some armor, but will it be enough as Rapha collapses in on him?
This is on the verge of being 6 frags in a row from that Rapha Visor. Like, just completely unchallenged in these 2 rounds. If he can pull off this round win, I wonder if it's actually going to be 9 champions straight. That's going to be insane if he can pull it off. You know, Rapha, he's won once before this weekend. I'm sure he'll be happy to win again.
He does have a historic precedent of winning things, yeah.
Garpy, he's come so close to victory in Duel. multiple times. You know, Quake Open League, you know, very notably was DreamHack Denver as well. You know he's going to want this to be his time to take home something significant. Watch out for that rail.
The fact that Rapha could get out of that corner at 30 health, knowing that it was a tight angle for the splash damage and still survive it, doing a little bit of damage of his own. Amazing stuff. But we're going to be looking at Rapha having to restack back up to 100-100. Heavy's going to be back up. Garpy's not quite there on the attack, but oh, Garpy once again getting blindsided by this LG. Doesn't really have an exit plan. Is the totem going to be enough? Not so much. And Rapha has pushed this into a 5th round.
And even if Rapha lost that 1v1, he had 20 seconds left on the clock to survive with the second champion. Hit a 1 through timeout alone. And just like that, this has been such an incredible comeback. And it's kind of like I said, 6 champions straight on this Visor. Garpy, is he going to try and go for a different champion? He's going to go Visor versus Visor for another time. You definitely need to fight fire with fire on this map, I think.
And I think it's worth noting that for both of these guys, they look just as sharp on camera as they did yesterday. For some of these players, to be honest, it's been a little bit of like a before and after picture if you look at yesterday and today. But both of these guys, this could have been yesterday for sure.
It's that level of focus that he needs to maintain, and that's actually why I've been rating Garpy so high. I don't want to sort of commentator's curse the whole thing. I know that's definitely a thing. But it's the fact that whenever Garpy plays Duel on LAN, he really goes big. But that was such a wonderful rocket. Terrible position for Garpy.
He's still there.
Oh my God!
One right between the eyes. Rapha opening up potentially the last round here with a frag and finding Garpy midair, getting the pop and the lock.
Oh. Well. Perhaps I spoke too soon. Is it too late to take my words back?
This might be the biggest case of commentator's curse I've ever seen.
I'm really sorry, Garpy. I'm going to take full responsibility for this. I can PayPal you something if you want.
All right, so Rapha's actually taken a bit of damage. This heavy armor is going to be a little bit of a contest. Garpy's got the stack advantage, if not the better position or the better weapons. Rapha still has the ability to just kind of decide how this fight is going to go, but he runs out of rockets, so, you know, time to leave.
And Garpy was very bold to stick to that heavy, but I really feel like he understood if I let Rapha take this heavy, it's going to be over. You know, it's almost like a borrowed time situation. So he stood true to his guns. Rapha on plenty of stack in terms of health, but no armor currently, so a couple of rails. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, Garpy just stopping short of getting hit by that rocket. It denied Rapha a lot of information, and now he's having to react. Rapha's going to be taking a bit of damage. Garpy's going to be over on the heavy. 6 seconds to the mega. If Rapha, yeah, please don't hit that.
8 champions in a row. Rapha's Visor has currently delivered. No choice from Garpy now but to make a 3 straight comeback with just Galena. Galena's not really a comeback champion. She has the sustainability, of course. But I feel like, you know, she doesn't have those kind of like trump card abilities that some champions do that you kind of just use either utility-wise in a fight to win or just damage. You know, those totems, it's mainly for when you win the fight, you sustain after.
Exactly, or even if you are backing out of a fight. I mean, it's good for licking your wounds, but Rapha, I mean, he didn't even go for that last mega. He was staying incredibly passive, very conservative in his play, making sure he's just got all the 25s and the small armors, baiting Garpy into an attack on the rail, knowing that he's already going to be out of there. So if Garpy goes for the chase, all that really gives Rapha is a little bit more room to breathe, but he's keeping that room like nothing else. What a great tri-bolt to a rail. It's going to leave Rapha still relatively weak, as Garpy, honestly, he returned with some great damage of his own.
Yeah, if they're both doing damage to each other, that's going to benefit Rapha, of course, because it's going to kind of force that reset situation. You know, as you kind of wait for items to come back, you wait for the next rotation of heavy, and you wait for the next rotation of mega. That's all going to take, you know, about 30 seconds time. If you have the champion lead, which Rapha does, those 30 seconds are always going to be in his favor.
And the time is starting to get a little bit tight, as Rapha's still playing the 100-100 game. Hasn't gone for the heavy items in just a little while, but still 10 seconds to heavy armor, but he's already reading Garpy moving over to the top, looking for these rails. He can afford to spend exactly 1 rail before things get too risky, but he's not even going for that. He's just going to listen and hear that heavy armor get taken away. 10 seconds to mega.
At this stage, he's not even picking up rockets. Like, Rapha is trying to give Garpy no information. He only has 1 shot left, so now you wonder what the play is going to be if he tries to ambush. With no rockets left to go.
Very quiet. Drops down for 1 rail. Actually railing Garpy into the mega, so thank you, Rapha. You're a pal.
I'm looking at the timer, Jahar.
Yeah,
this is a scary situation. I mean, it's going to force Garpy to be bold, and here comes the rail. Okay, he's not counted out. He's going to be rewarded with the heavy as well. But BJ, fresh off respawn with 2 rockets, that can still melt you away.
And is Rapha going to get caught on the same spawn? It's a good defensive rocket. Garpy is going to be having to break off the chase, and now he's got to be feeling the pressure of this clock. We've got less than a minute to go. He's able to take away mega, but for some reason, having all the stack in the world is no consolation if you know that the timer's against you.
Exactly. It's going to force
Oh,
Garpy
no.
to be super antsy. Goes in for a rocket, another one so well placed by Rapha. And he's not even going to go in for the kill. Let's keep Garpy behind. Let's force this timer.
It's going to come down to the last rail, and it's going to be Garpy taking Rapha out. He's down to his Galena, but this will be, at the very least, overtime. Garpy's taking a lot of machine gun from up top, having to use the totem to get some health back, but here comes Mega as well. Rapha's got to go passive.
I feel like this would have been a different story if those two rails connected. Unfortunately, they didn't. Garpy, it's been more of a reset situation, but it's going to benefit him a little bit because of the stack advantage. But this is Rapha. He's consistently been taking these fights with Garpy having more stack and winning, so it's not going to be, you know, that ace in the hole that it sometimes can be.
So Garpy's looking for Rapha out of the top shotgun.
Oh, look at
I mean,
the stack.
Rapha was down below, so he didn't exactly have the read, but yeah, you're right. I mean, Garpy has got all the health, all the armor in the world as we go into overtime. He's getting a little bit of information from these rockets. It's going to be tough for Rapha to get out of this fight, to be honest. He's throwing in enough LG to make Garpy maybe regret it, diving into the Mega, taking a lot of damage from the rockets, as Garpy is looking for the fight on the teleporter.
Rapha, I absolutely love the delay on Rapha's use of the teleport there. That was just so wonderfully placed to make sure that, you know, if Garpy is going to hang around here for too long, that's going to give him room to escape anyway. Well timed.
Rapha finally getting his own hands on Mega and armor. That last fight was just so good for him, but this Mega is going to be risky for both of them. Rapha's got the better position on it, realizing that Garpy, well, he's going to still be outside. Dropping down would not be great. Looking for an opportunity for damage, not going to get it. Just having to take that Mega as a consolation, like, oh, well, I guess I'll just take Mega, no big deal.
They've pretty much swapped positions.
Yeah.
I was actually very worried for Rapha the second we saw that initial ambush on the Mega.
Somebody
Wonderful rail. Going in for a second one. Garpy, look out!
Oh, just manages to sneak out the doorway before that rail catches him in the, well.
I'm pretty sure everyone in this room felt that miss.
Yeah.
Just like zipped past Garpy. On Garpy's perspective, here it is. Rapha being incredibly aggressive. Swapping to the LG, good weapon swap. Is this going to be enough? Sustain! Wait a minute! Garpy lands the rocket! And the last minute! What a play from Garpy! The swap to the LG for Rapha wasn't enough. And if Garpy missed that rocket by a hair's length, then I feel like it would have been an entirely different story. Oh my god!
What?
Machiavelli's over here.